Alright guys, well, I'm back to make another video. This one's going to be a little bit different than the last videos. I'm going to take a deep dive of the mechanics of this vehicle and how everything works. If you like deep stuff and you're a mechanic, or you like off-roading, or you like circuit board design, you're going to really like this video. If you're wanting to just watch off-roading, there's probably going to be none of that in this video. I'm just warning you now. So if you want to see how this thing actually is built, this is the video for you. So let's take a look. Okay, so this is the vehicle as is. This is how the vehicle is supposed to look when there is nothing on. Like, you can't see all the circuit board and logic behind the vehicle. This is how it's supposed to look. I still got to put a dang engine in there and a transmission, but we'll worry about that later. There is a transfer case, but anyways, so I put new drive shafts in. That's new. They're better updated. They're the same U-joint design as my axle shaft U-joints. So that's new. And also, we got hydro steering now. So we got a hydro steering pump. Well, the cylinder, sorry, not the pump. The pump would be up in the engine bay. But anyways, so that's now there. Let's take a look at the suspension of the control arms. So I had a comment on these control arms saying this looks like it should be a 4-link. And he is right. He is absolutely right. It is designed to look like a 4-link. But it is only a 2-link. And the reason I did that is because in Dreams, this game does not... It will not accept having a 4-link design. It will freak out and throw things all over the place, especially with how I have things hooked up to give it the suspension travel that it has. So, I don't know if I showed this before, but there are 2 bolts that hold this control arm on there. And they're not, I think they're bolts, or they're ball joints. But they're made so the axle can't pivot or shift. So it doesn't need 2 upper control arms. It's just fine the way it is. Same with the rear. So, yes, he is right. There is meant to be 4-link on this vehicle, but Dreams won't support it. It's not possible. So, yeah, there's that. Okay, let's actually take a legit look into the logic of this vehicle. And, yeah. So we'll start with the tires first. We'll start with the basics. So if you've watched my Little Big Planet videos and seen how my logic works in that game, I use rotators on each tire. So, luckily in this game, I was able to make it so I can tune one thing that tunes everything in that category. So, with that being said, the quick tuning for too high is going to change the power, the torque, and the brake for reverse and drive in that gear. So, I can change the power right here, the torque right here, and the engine braking right here. And all these are the rotators. This is my idle, this guy right here. This is my idle for when you're just sitting with the vehicle in drive or in reverse. Just idles the vehicle forward nice and slow. So that's how those work. Let's take a look at other things. There's no engine braking in this game, so you have to make your own. So that's what this is. It's literally changing the braking to be extremely high in low range. So it slows the vehicle down faster than it would in too high or 4 high, sorry. So anyways, so we looked at this, but it's on all three of the gears. So 4 high and 4 low. So it's all the same thing, except they're quick tunes. I can tune everything on each tire with that one slider. So that makes up for awesome. Perfect design. Easy to adjust. And stuff like that. So brakes. Brakes are freaking difficult. Oh, man. I've been struggling with brakes really bad, trying to get them to be as perfect as possible. So, the way I did brakes on this is just what you would do normally is have both of these go, the strength and the braking, all the way up at 0 speed. That makes it so the vehicle will slow down and stop. But if you're on an angle, that doesn't work. It still lets the vehicle move forward slowly. It still lets it rotate the wheels. And so you're never fully stopped. So that's what these are. These come into play to literally stop the tire. It's kind of a bummer because it rotates back to the one spot it was at. So, let's say it's pointed straight up and down. You're 180, so you're pointed straight back down. Imagine pushing the brake, it rotates either front or backwards to meet back up to the top point. It sucks, but in my opinion, it's the best I can do for Dream's physics of brakes. It works, it's kind of awkward, but it works and it does the job. So that's brakes. Let's see, what's this? This is tire pressure. Okay, so on my tire pressure, you can see that there are multiple different things happening. There is a secondary piece of tire, so when the tire's on the ground, there is a bevel. So it makes the tire look like it's actually low on pressure. So it's beveling out a little bit. So that's disappearing, going in and out, getting smaller, bigger, smaller, bigger, smaller, bigger, to make it look and seem like the tires are actually low on tire pressure. But also to give it that squishy feeling, I made it so the tires, they go into that squish physic for a millisecond, literally a millisecond. So it gives that squish, but it doesn't, this squishiness, but it doesn't give me that cheat traction, that insane, crazy, non-realistic traction that this squish physic gives. So, yes, that's awesome. So that's what all this is. It tells how fast the tire is going and how hard it hits an obstacle. And then it will decide from there what the tire needs to do. So that gives it that squish. But I think that's also the reason why the tires are getting jammed in rocks sometimes. So that sucks. But not a lot I can do about that. And also the hit a rock super hard, get a rumble in the controller. Same thing on this tire, same thing on this tire. So in two-wheel drive, my front tires and rear tires are really heavy to support the vehicle. In this game, the lighter the object is, the worse, that the bolt, ball joint, piston, everything like that is going to be weaker for some reason. So you have to make them super heavy. So in two-wheel drive, it doesn't have a whole lot of torque to push the vehicle because these are so dang heavy. And with that being said, I had to make it so the front tires, when you get to a certain speed, they start rotating a little bit at a time and start helping the front end go. So it's not feeling so gutless in the front end, in the rear, in two-wheel drive, sorry. So that's what the two-wheel drive help is, just helps speed things up for the vehicle. in two-wheel drive. Alright, so that's the tires. That's the basics of the tires. Let's take a look at the actual internals of the ECU, the computer, and everything that goes along with that. Alright, so let's start off with the basics, and let's look at the HUD. The HUD is showing your speed, what locker you have on or off, your gear, obviously, high and your transfer case gear. So that's basically all that is. It's just sensing what gear it's in, and then turns it on to be in that gear, and so on and so forth. So, okay, so there was one thing I forgot to mention back in the HUD right here. So, this is how you do speedo. You just do a movement sensor into a number display, and it just goes off of that number. So, I figured out that number is completely wrong. It's off by like 20 miles per hour. It's a lot. It's off slower than what actual speed would be. So, with that being said, I figured out the actual math of the what needs to be multiplied to make it the actual speed of what it would be real life. And me and my best friend figured that out by doing math and figuring out. We actually stacked a whole bunch of these 42-inch tires along a road trying to figure out a mile-long track, which is awesome. It worked. And it seemed pretty realistic driving past things at certain speeds. So 2.63 is what you need to multiply to get the actual speed of the game to be realistic. At least for the size of the character tires, so the size of these guys. Oh gosh. The size of these puppets. If you're basing them off of these guys. So, yeah. That's really cool. Now I was able to figure out all the transmission gearing and everything like that to be a lot better. Because before, my 70 miles per hour was off a lot. It was like almost 200 miles per hour in the game. In real life. Which is insane. So I was going way, way, way too fast for 70 miles per hour. It was going way too fast. HUD, pretty simple, self-explanatory. I do have a dirt effect that when you're driving a certain distance and certain speed that you start getting dirty on the vehicle. The vehicle starts looking dirty and starts developing a dirt effect, I guess, whatever. And then also there's when you're driving a certain speed, I want there to be a dirt effect for that as well. And with that being said, it's like up here. I just don't have it on the vehicle yet. I just don't even use it yet. But there it is. But, yeah, there's that. And that's... this part right here is to control the dirt on the vehicle. And then this is to control the dirt on the tires. Coming off of the tires, sorry. So getting flung up in the air. Camera views. This is camera views right here. Literally on a selector that selects which camera view you want. This is the way I made that bypass for third person, so it resets you right where you want that third person. That way you're not getting stuck in that first person view. First person, obviously. Hood view. Driver, door, bumper, chassis, front diff, rear diff. All those views are very handy. I feel like they're the best views for an off-road vehicle, especially if you want to do something realistic like first person, driving first person and then changing to driver door view. That's awesome because you're able to make it feel super realistic. Let's see what else we got here. Did all that. Here's the lights. I can change the brightness of the lights through this slider here, and the high beams of the brightness of the lights. Reverse lights, brightness, so on and so forth. These turn the lights on and off. Selector, turn on and off, obviously. Pretty simple, just basic stuff. I did add quick tuning as well for the vehicle. So with that being said, traction amount. This vehicle is obviously the best it can be, so traction is all the way up. But you can change the tire pressure, compression amount, deformation. So there was something I forgot to mention. With the suspension on the limiting strap, it will tighten the front or rear, but, so it can't unload. And then what was this one? Oh, this is cheap traction. Just unload. So that little physics that I added so that doesn't happen. It just tightens the front suspension. To get you back up on your wheels. It turns makes it better. Into that makes it more stable. Squishy physics, and then makes it easy to get back on your wheels. Okay, limiting straps. Let's take a look at the limiting straps. So here we go. We have limiting straps and the ECU that controls the limiting straps, deciding the angle of the vehicle and deciding whether or not that limiting strap should be on or off, or how strong it should be. So for the front, so on and so forth, it turns the limiting strap on and off. And if you remember what I said in my last video for when I was talking about limiting straps, was the limiting strap cannot be on front and rear. And with it not being able to be on front and rear, that makes it so it's not overpowered and non-realistic. But with the suspension the way it is, it unloads really quick and you lose traction going up an obstacle or down an obstacle, whether you roll over or catch yourself or whatever. But yeah, the limiting strap helps that, so it keeps that front end or rear end down to keep that center of gravity low, to keep it able to go up the obstacle and keep traction on those rocks or dirt or whatever. So it's super nice. That's front and rear limiting straps. That's how they work. They're just basically a help to make it a little more realistic, because it just wouldn't happen that way. It wouldn't unload that much. But I don't have actual way of making legit suspension that works as well as real life. So I got to deal with what I'm given. So that's limiting straps. Damage. This is fun. So, if obviously on off for damage, turns it on. It tells it if it's on or off on the HUD. Let's see. This one is all engine damage right here. This one consists of all engine damage. So, if the vehicle flips over, it will eventually blow the engine, because it's starved of oil, obviously. And then if you're sitting in one spot and just revving to the sky with the wheels spinning, not getting any moving forward, it will eventually blow the engine as well, because you're just putting so much load on the engine without moving. So it's a punishment. It will blow the engine. Yeah. So we have front drive shaft, rear drive shaft, and the tie rod. These all break and they all fall on the ground, and there's a part on the ground after something breaks. And then that part does not work anymore, and then you have to deal with not having that part working anymore. I have no physics for fixing it, just resetting the vehicle, obviously. But yes. The brake sound effects, the actual part disappearing, stuff like that. We'll go down to the vehicle where the damage actually exists. So, drive shaft. All these basically look the same. Same logic, at least. It takes a certain amount of hits to damage and or break the part. And then it will eventually delete the part and delete the action of that part. So, break the front drive shaft, you have no front drive anymore. So, simple, basic stuff like that. So, breaking stuff makes the game fun, more difficult, entertaining. Lockers. This is cool. Alright, we're going to need to take a look at the actual bolts and patterns and stuff like that. So, just turning the front diff on or off, all it basically is doing is going to the front diff or the rear diff, grabbing a hold of this bolt, and tightening it. That's literally it. That's all it's doing. Is it's just tightening up this and locking it in place. So, with those two drive shafts that are in the axle, those are two completely different parts. But once this locker is activated, it will lock those two tires up and rotate at the same time. Sometimes most of the time it works. It's just when the tire gets stuck that it will eventually just rotate through. But not a lot I can do with that with Dream's physics. So yeah, that's lockers. They're super cool. It took me a while to figure that out. That was a mechanic that is pretty difficult to figure out. You definitely need drive shafts going through the whole axle. So we'll take a look at this and show you that. There is no ring and pinion inside the diff, so it's just two drive shafts going inside. But yeah, there's that. Lockers, that's it on lockers. Open diff, this is cool. So in this game, it basically acts as an LSD. If you don't know what an LSD is, it's limiting slip of one of the tires that's rotating. So on an open diff vehicle, the tire is rotating. Let's say you have the right tire up in the air and the left tire down on the ground. Which tire do you think is going to get all that power? It's going to be the tire up in the air. All that power is going to that one tire that's up in the air. So with limited slip, that is eased. That's less. So it's trying to help the other tire, so the left tire in this instant, rotate as well. So this game never really has open diff physics. So, with that being said, these just sense when the one tire is off the ground and senses what that tire is doing. With the open diff, this is legit open diff. It's not Dream's physics of open diff, which is an LSD. So you have your tire go up in the air. That tire is going to get all the power instead. So it turns off the other tire that is on the ground. So it turns it off right here. It turns off whatever side is on the ground. Sorry. So, yeah. That's all the same for all four tires. It's just how yeah. So if you flip over, it's impossible to flip back over. So that's open diff, and I made that physic as well. So that's pretty cool. Okay, brakes. Obviously, we looked at brakes earlier, but e-brake pull, that's pulling the actual shaft inside the vehicle. Same with all the shifter and stuff like that, all the shifters. That's how those move and stuff like that. E-brake pull and four-wheel drive. So when you're in four-wheel drive, when you park, it actually engages those front wheels to be in park as well. When it's in two-wheel drive, it is only two wheels in park, which is the rear two, while the front two are in neutral, basically. So, realistic stuff. I tried to keep this thing as realistic as possible. You press the brakes a certain amount, it will eventually lock up the brakes and make it so they're actually locked. They can't rotate anymore when you press those brakes hard enough. Brake lights, obviously. Steering. Oh, let's see. Steering. High-speed steering. In this game, traction is not your friend. So at higher speeds, you're unable to steer. So you have to use a rotator that rotates the vehicle a tiny bit at a certain speed. It senses the speed that your vehicle is going and rotates with that amount of speed. Once you get to a certain top speed or a certain amount of speed, it will eventually die out because you're losing traction, like real life. You won't be able to turn as well going a higher speed. This is obviously what controls the steering for the pistons that are running the steering and stuff like that. And this is these are the pistons that are running the steering. Right here. They just go backwards and forwards, obviously, to rotate the tires. I mean, to turn the tires, sorry. Okay, back to what we were talking about. So, let's take a look at the drivetrain. We'll take a look at the speedo that controls the tach inside the vehicle. It's literally just rotating the tach at a certain speed. Okay, so let's go here. So 2 high and 4 high. Those used to be only one actual changes to timeline. The movers and the rotators on the tires. They're multiple because they have to be different rates of speed. So that's and controlled a certain way. Changing the movers. That's how that works now. On the axle. Right here somewhere. It's not there right now because I can't see it. There it is. It's right there. Mover on the axle. And then changes the rotators on the tires with whatever front or rear, and just adjusts to that speed and just continues pushing through the gears. So this is your first gear, second gear, third, fourth, overdrive. So yeah, that's how the automatic transmission works in those gears. Okay, these are the obviously transmission shifters. So transmission shift from park, reverse, neutral, drive, so on and so forth. So you have to be in neutral to shift into 4 low. You can shift into 4 high without pressing the brake. I did make that physics possible, which is realistic. So, yeah, simple stuff with the transmission, transfer case, sounds, controls of the shifters on the actual vehicle. Just, yeah, simple things like that. Sensing what buttons you're pressing and gear you're in and stuff like that. This is sensing if your vehicle's on the ground or not to give it that mover. Okay, we'll do sound. take a look at suspension sound. Obviously, you hit something, you push the suspension down a certain amount, it will make a suspension sound, maxed out sound. You let it extend all the way at a certain speed, it will make a full extended sound. So, and then it will rumble whether or not. So that helps for just driving in general. Tire squeal. This gives it a random sound effect. It senses what the tires are doing and if they need to make a tire squeal or rocks throwing sound effect or whatever. So that just sends whatever needs to go off. Regular driving on dirt, stuff like that. Engine rev up. This one is for being in neutral and being in park, sitting there pushing the throttle for bumps and stuff like that to get you up obstacles, or just sitting there revving the engine just because you can. That's all this is doing, is just sensing what buttons you're pressing and all the stuff that the speeds and everything like that. So it senses how fast you're going. If you're going too slow, it will allow you to rev up the engine. If you're moving too fast, it will not let this engage at all. So, yeah. It's just the same sound effects going off for the engine in general. Okay, this is the big boy. First, second, third, fourth. All these gears work as gears. It senses how fast the vehicle is going, turns off at a certain speed. So this is sensing how fast you're going to give it the rev sound that you need for going that certain speed. This will sense when it gets to that max gear speed, then it will turn it off and move on to this next one, and so on and so forth, and continue through the gears. And obviously your throttle sound effect, same thing. Throttle tack. For low needs its own sound effects because it's completely different gears, so it needs its own gear. Otherwise it would just sound wrong. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, let's take a look at what holds this dang vehicle together. Okay, so as I was saying, I got the idea from that one guy, that one builder. I don't remember his name offhand. It's in my very first video, if you want to go look him up. I got a few ideas from him for his sway bar and stuff like that to make it so suspension can actually work. But I modified it and made it so it uses pistons as a shock and a spring. Because, as you know, there's no spring in this game. So you have to make your Caseyanato, if I pronounce that right. These are. You have your spring. You have your shock. Keep in mind, everything that you're seeing, like the actual parts that you're seeing, I fully custom built. Every bit of it is fully custom built. But like I said, these parts, like this logic right here, let's turn on everything so we can see what we're looking at. The sway bar type stuff, all this right here, was that one guy's design, but like I said, I modified it, or enhanced it, I should say, not made it better, because it was already pretty cool to begin with. So that just makes it so suspension actually works the way it should. For solid axles, I would say. Anyways, so these are on no, they're on motor bolts, sorry, to allow the hub to rotate. And obviously my awesome axle shafts and their U-joints are awesome. So there's those bolts I was talking about. If I can get a view on it. I don't know why I can't. Bolts going through. There you go. That are holding the axle in place. Same with the bolt holding this guy on. You have a bolt that runs through holding the tire on and letting this rotate the brake caliper. Same with this side. There is a brake caliper and rotor, but those obviously don't work. Well, the rotor rotates. That's what rotates the tire, actually. So that actually rotates. Same with the rear. Rear's basically the exact same, except you can see things a little better, more clear. Yeah. That's how this monster is put together. It took a lot of time and effort figuring it out. Ugh. Getting the suspension correct was a pain in the butt. I'm not kidding you when I say that. Like getting the control arms to work properly and stuff like that, that was a pain. Like I said, that's the only reason I'm using 2-link instead of 4-link. It's just easier that way. So inside the ORI shock is another piston, but that piston's not doing anything besides just holding the lower shaft in place and letting it go up and down. But yeah, there you go, guys. That is the awesome rock crawler in deep look at the rock crawler and how everything is put together. It's been quite the project, for sure. I think there is like crash physics and stuff like that, obviously. So hitting certain things makes a scrape sound and damage sound effects. Angle of limiting straps. Yeah. I've gone through basically everything that there is to know on this vehicle. But if that helps you guys and makes you want to build something like this yourself, I'd say do it. If you want more insight of how everything works, feel free to contact me through YouTube. It's not that big of a deal, but I'll get back to you eventually. I hope this has helped you guys out. I'm super happy with how it turned out and is going. It's getting better and better with each day, so yeah, I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Thank you for it all, and have a good Thanksgiving, because that's what today is. So take care, guys.